Look into your own life and see, does belief create? Does belief have that much power? It doesn't. What has power is action. If mere belief took us to heaven, then all the great saints and prophets from all the traditions would not have had to give us so many teachings. All they had to say was, just believe. But they didn't. The Christians think that if you believe in Jesus, that's it. That's your ticket to heaven. But there's no evidence of that. Jesus never said it. Instead, what he said was, the path to heaven is very narrow and very difficult, and there are few who find it. He didn't say that everybody who believes will go. He never said that. Likewise, in the Jewish traditions, nowhere does it say that the believer will go to heaven. Nowhere. What it says is, the tzaddik will go, the righteous one. And who is righteous? He who is free of sin. No anger, no lust, no preferences for materialism, no attachment to things like gold or property, but a soul that is completely free of attachment and focused only on God. In Buddhism, this is taught very beautifully by a traditional story. I haven't been able to find the scripture where it's recorded. And I've told the story before, so forgive me if you've heard it. But it's beautiful and it illustrates this perfectly. The Buddha was once teaching, Buddha Shakyamuni, in India. And a woman came to him crying, holding her dead child. And came to the Buddha and said, please, can you bring my child back to life? And the woman was completely distraught. And the Buddha, in his great wisdom, said, go into the city, find a house where there has never been death, and bring me a mustard seed from that house. So the woman left and went all around the city from house to house to house, asking, has death ever been in this house? And every house she went to, someone had died. And little by little, she started to understand that every house has death. It can't be avoided. It's beautiful. Another similar teaching, a man came to represent his family to the Buddha and asked the Buddha, please, my father is dying. Can you pray for him so that his soul will go to heaven? And the Buddha said, seeing that the young man was very emotional and very attached, the Buddha said, fetch me a jar, 2 jars, some rocks and some butter, and some wax, and a long stick. So the man got all the elements, and the Buddha took him to a nearby body of water, a lake or a river. And he said, put the rocks in one vase, seal it with wax. Put the butter in the other vase, seal it with wax. The man did so. And the man was full of faith. He was convinced that the Buddha was going to do a ritual to propel his father's dying soul to heaven. So the Buddha said, put the jars in the water. And the young man did so, full of faith. And the Buddha said, take the stick and break the jars. And the young man did so. And after a moment, the butter floated to the top and floated away. And the Buddha said, I can't do anything for your father. What will determine where he goes is what is in him, what he has done. We need to look in our mind. What is in us? The rocks represent attachment, heaviness, density, pride, anger, resentment. The butter represents the purity of consciousness that is unattached, that is refined, that is light. What happens to us when we die is determined by what is in us. The quality of that light stream of our mind that is propelled through space, through eternity, by our every action. Every action modifies energy. When we act, whether with the body, the heart, or thought, with anger, we modify the light of that moment with anger. And anger does not belong to heaven. Anger belongs in hell. It is a hellish energy. That action of anger, that thought, that emotion, or that physical action causes that energy to become trapped in complicated laws, meaning it becomes dense. And every time we persist in acting on that anger, we make it more dense. The same is true of pride. The same is true of lust. The same is true of envy, gluttony, laziness. In every moment, that film strip of our life is passing by, and we modify energy in every moment. That means how you will die is determined by your state of mind right now. If death comes right now, your state of mind will determine the nature of your death. Think it's impossible? Many people have just laid down and died. Like that. My uncle, that happened to my uncle. He laid down, young man, laid down and died. Nobody expected it. In my own family, every case of death was unexpected. Not one person in my family was waiting for death. Not one. All of them were caught surprised. And in that surprise, that shock, the pain, the uncertainty, all of those qualities modify the consciousness. The last moments of the dying one define their death. This is why the Gnostic trains for the perfect death. To be prepared. To be ready. So that death is not a surprise. Death is a welcome doorway. This is why we train constantly in attentiveness, in one taste. Whatever experiences are coming to us, we don't accept them or reject them. We comprehend them. We transform impressions. When someone criticizes us, we transform that into love. When someone praises us, we transform that into love. Not taking the words personally, but instead comprehending the person who said it and comprehending the effect of the words on ourselves. When life gives us bitterness, we don't react with aversion. We comprehend. We receive those impressions and accept our karma. When life gives us bounty, we don't become attached. Instead, we receive that as karma, knowing that things are always changing. Today it's good, tomorrow it's bad. But we have to be always attentive, on the cusp of the wave, receiving everything with indifference. That indifference is not the indifference of not caring. It is equanimity that cares but is not attached. It's like having a child. If you're a parent, you know that sometimes your child is very happy, comes and gives you hugs and kisses, and the next minute the child is angry and screaming and hitting you. If you react, you make it worse. If you get angry, if you hit the child back, if you ignore the child, you make it worse. In both cases, you have to respond with equanimity and love. This is the precise attitude we need in life. Whatever happens, to respond with equanimity and love.